now call this meeting to order. Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item of business are the minutes of our last board meeting, July 10th. Has everybody had a chance to check it out? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 10th meeting.
Lori, just correct the header. It says May 8th on it.
It says what?
May 8th on the header, the third, right below the school district of Clear Lake.
Okay.
And I'm looking for a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the meetings of the regular board meeting July 10th. With the correction, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the general fund vouchers, 80585 through 80620, voiding 80591, and wire transfers 2024 triple lot 1 through 2024 0039. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the monthly transactions.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is our public comment. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? All right, seeing not, then we'll move on to our Spotlight of Education. First, the kinship of Polk County thank you letter.
Yeah, so just to recall, at the June meeting, the board agreed to donate $2,000 to Kinship of Polk County, and so just they sent a nice thank you letter to us. To the said, dear Mr. Peterson, school board members, thank you for your continuous support of Kinship of Polk County. We received your check in the amount of $2,000. Your financial support will allow us to remain a strong asset in your school district. Amy Danielson is the Kinship Coordinator for the Clear Lake District. She will continue to work closely with the guidance staff and teachers to provide positive mentoring experiences for both the elementary and high school students in your district. Please don't hesitate to contact Amy or myself with any questions you may have. Sincerely from Lisa Danig, the Executive Director. So.
Nice. All right. Any comments? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to our next item of business. The approval of resignations, which I believe we don't have any.
We can table, yeah, there's none to approve.
And then the approval of the hires.
Okay, we have one hire. We would recommend for approval Heidi Martin as a elementary special education paraprofessional.
I will entertain a motion for Heidi.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve Heidi Martin as our elementary special ed paraprofessional. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
We just have our one remaining opening that we've been working hard to fill is still our K-12 art position.
Okay. So then we'll move on to our next item of business, which is the consideration and approval of adoption of the strategic plan pillars, mission, vision, and values recommended by the Vision Element Study Team.
So we attached the presentation that the VEST group gave to the board last month, and also attached the outline of the pillars and mission, vision, values. Had a little bit of discussion after at the end of last meeting, at the end of the presentation. So what the VEST proposed was for the board to hear the proposal last month, consider it, and then consider formal adoption tonight.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? There was a lot of energy in the room the last time we met, and well, does anybody have any thoughts they want to share? None? Then I'll just consider a motion then. All right, I'll entertain a motion then to adopt the strategic plan pillars, mission, vision, and values
I move to approve the strategic plan pillars, mission, vision, and values recommended by the Vision Element Study Team.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the strategic plan pillars, mission, vision, and values recommended by the Vision Element Study Team. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And I believe somewhere in here, Chris, we're going to be talking a little bit about how we're going to be taking that forward.
Next steps. Yep, next steps. And also just in the interim too, we've already just talking about plans for in-service, and we've actually invited members of the Vision Element Study Team to come in and present to the teachers and the full staff on the first day of in-service, and to kind of give the same presentation that you all got to hear, and kind of walk through the whole process and see the whole timeline, from January up till now, for the staff to see that. And then also I'll start working with so our community ed coordinator, Wendy Scoggins, is pretty gifted and experienced with graphic design and has a lot of talent there. So we're going to start, after adoption here, we're going to start working together on starting to generate some ideas for how to put it into an attractive graphical design. And then we'll also, we're going to be updating our webpage. That's been an ongoing process, and Mrs. Myers here, she's a key lead in that part of it. But we'll be, adding links on our webpage that will, show all the things, that has been part of the best process too. So.
Okay, very good. So the next item of business then is the approval of the 23-24 preliminary budget.
Okay, so I made paper copies for everybody. So if you look at your seat, there should be a colorful, I think it's underneath your computer there. So you want to pull that out. So I'll just kind of walk you through the packet here. So we'll kind of take an overview first, and I'll go back to the beginning. So the first 3 pages here, this is the DPI revenue limit worksheet that every district uses to calculate what our projected revenue is going to be. And this is, obviously it's 3 pages long, but it's a complicated formula that brings in all the data related to student count and equalized aid formula and all that. So then the next pages, I numbered the pages 4 through 7, actually 4 through 8, are the budget proposal that we'll give an overview of. And then pages 9 and 10 are the same information, just in a different format. So the DPI gives 2 formats. One is for the board adoption, which is that first more in-depth one. And then pages 9 and 10 and 11 are the publication format. So that's the part, we need to do a class 1 publication. And so that's what goes, that we publicly post before the meeting, to give our public notice. Obviously it's a little more simplified, save a little paper, a little ink. So anyway, so I'll just kind of walk us through that. So if we go back to the front pages, the revenue limit worksheet, we're not going to sit and go through this line by line, but just a couple key points with the process right now. So it's early in the process. We approved the preliminary budget tonight, hopefully. That allows us to get our publications or share this out publicly in the appropriate legal timeline before the annual meeting. At the annual meeting, then we would review this same proposed preliminary budget with the public, and then what happens between now and the end of October is a lot of things. So this is a best guess estimate. There are a lot of variables right now that we don't know. So it's using the best data that we have to try to make best projections that we have. But we don't know actual student counts for Third Friday. We don't know open enrollment in or open enrollment out. We don't know how much actual equalized aid we're going to get, because that data comes from, as all the districts finish up their audits here in July, DPI has all the data on how much every district actually spent, and that calculates into your formula of how much you get the following year. It also calculates into the formula of how, the student count, how much aid gets apportioned out across all the districts. So a lot happens in October, and September. But so students count, open enrollment, equalized aid. I'm leaving out a couple things here.
What's FTE?
FTE is full-time equivalent, so that's like a student count.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what. Yep, good question. That's so. And so our number of FTEs does not equal our number of actual students. You know, so it's
Right.
we calculate our students. It goes into a 3-year rolling average. And also,
Yep.
4K students count as 0.6 because they're half time, and summer school calculation that goes in there. So, and just so everybody knows that the calculations that we use, we go conservative here. So, for example, summer school, we don't have all that data yet because we count, the weight room, we count the marching band and stuff like that goes on over the summer. We'll wait till September to do that summer school count. So I'm kind of, estimating low. I have a feeling I have 12 summer FTEs. I have a feeling it's going to be more like 13 maybe, like it was last year, maybe even up a little bit. Okay, if you go to page 2.
So we can wait
Yeah, go ahead.
counts towards that, huh?
Yeah, that's we can count that as a summer school program. Yeah, it's open to all students. So yeah.
Is that the same with the community ed?
Swimming lessons we can't because that's community ed and they pay for that. So
Okay.
yeah, good question though. Yeah, we don't do community ed, but good question. Yeah, sorry. Anything else on the front page that people have questions about? Sorry, I'm just kind of glossing over that. Well, I guess one thing, if you go back, if you're on page 1, so if you go to almost to the bottom of page 1, you see the number $11,678.64. So that is our revenue per pupil. Okay, so just 2 years ago we were at 10,000. Okay, so what happened is the referendum, and then what also happened is the additional $325 per student this year. So with the referendum only, we were up at like 11,003 something, and now we're at 11,678. So that's a good revenue increase for us. The thing is though, around the whole state, they raised the minimum revenue. They call it the revenue limit ceiling. I call it the floor because it's the lowest minimum revenue limit that you can get. It's 10,000 has been that way, and we've been one of those districts for a long time. So one of the things they did in the budget is they moved 11,000 is now the lowest. So that's a huge change around the state for a lot of districts, bigger than the 325 a year. Now for us, that means it caught up, our referendum, it caught up some of that. But actually, I kind of was working with our associate from Baird who was helping on this a little bit, and we calculated it out if we had or didn't have the referendum. We're still ahead. We're still further ahead having it. And obviously, we've had that referendum money now for a year and been able to make good use of it and do positive things with it too. So. Anyway, any other? Oh, another thing is I know what I was missing. Real estate value. So on the bottom of page 1 in the red, $339,877. This is the total value of all the property in the school district of Clear Lake, and all the townships and villages. So that is also a fairly conservative number. So we calculated a 5% increase from last year. Our associate or consultant would probably say it's maybe going to be closer to 10 is what they would guess. So again, that's a conservative estimate there. So if that value goes higher, that drives the mill rate down a little bit more then too. So that's a conservative estimate. Our FTEs is a conservative estimate. If we go to the second page, if we go down to line 12A, in yellow there, it's $5,079,141. So this is our estimate of general aid that will come from the state. So I have written in there, I have a note, this is the Baird model estimate. So their estimate is a little bit different than what the DPI would have pre-filled in there. And again, it's a more conservative estimate, but they're projecting that we're going to get less general aid than what the DPI is projecting we're going to get. And They had a good explanation of why they feel their numbers are better. It's kind of what they do. So it's a more conservative projection there too. So that doesn't impact how much money per pupil we're going to get or how much our total revenue is. It just is a difference between, of the total revenue that we get, some of it comes from the state, roughly 75%, and some of it comes from local taxes. So this is just wherever that number on 12A swings. If we get more general aid, then it'll be less local property taxes that are assessed. If we get less general aid, which is what this is projecting, then that means a higher local tax assessment and a higher mill rate. So long story short, on the revenue page, you get to the bottom there, this is projecting a $2,876,824 tax levy, local tax levy, which would give a mill rate of 8.48, which, if we compare it to last year was 8.24, so it's going up very slightly. But again, this is I would call this kind of a worst case scenario. This is assuming lower property value growth, which we think it's probably going to be higher, and this is assuming the low end of state aid, which is maybe going to be higher. So if I were to calculate it the other way, which I did, using the DPI's numbers that they think we're going to get for estimated general aid, the mill rate's as low as 7.68. So it's going to fall somewhere in between there. Let's just say that. So it was 8.24 last year. So it's going to be hopefully around that same area. And just for reference, 2021, 2022 was 9.47. So it's gone from 9.47 last year down to 8.24, and this year I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere in that low 8 again, or maybe high 7. So,
And I think historically before that we've been double digits, I think.
it's floated over time, but yeah, it's gone double digits many times. It's the last few years, state legislature has pumped money into the formula to drive down property taxes, and also our property values have increased around here probably more than the state average, because of St. Croix County mainly. So that drives that mill rate down a little bit. So that's the revenue part. So, and then if we page ahead to page 4, so the first 2 pages here is Fund 10. That's the main general fund. That's the giant one. But you can see column B is the 21-22 audited numbers. Column C is the 22-23 fiscal year that we just finished. It's unaudited. Those are final numbers, but they're unaudited at this point. And then column D is our projected budget for next year. So one thing to note, line 3 is you'll see the beginning fund balance is up a little bit, a little over $90,000. So at the end of the fiscal year, we had a sizable surplus due to referendum dollars being new and due to ESSER funds that we're spending throughout. Those ESSER funds we're able to use for certain things that we would normally use in general funds, so that's offsetting some of that. So we've had sizable surplus, so we put a sizable deposit into Fund 46, and we were still, and then also left a little over $90,000 into the fund balance to kind of boost our fund balance up a bit more. So.
And to correct me if I'm wrong, we want our fund balance to be about that high so we don't have to borrow to do payroll during cyclical times when we...
Right. We want to, and people will say, what's the right percentage of fund balance that you should have? And it really varies by district, but it's, you want to avoid having a short-term borrow, and you want to just, protect yourself with a cushion to make sure if you have an unexpected budgetary shortfall at the end of a fiscal year. But, in a district like ours that's heavily state aided, we don't want to put in too much fund balance at a time, because money that we don't spend at the end of the year gets counted against us next year in the general aid. So kind of, again, I got some help from Baird and a lot of help from Lori, certainly, and we kind of looked at what was an appropriate amount, and our fund balance had gone down just a little, just very slightly, and so we boosted it back up to about 19%, I think. So as inflation goes too, you want to avoid that short-term borrow. So as costs continue to increase, you need to make sure your fund balance boosts up just a little bit every year. So that was one notable thing. How detailed do you want to go here? Do you want to just look at the total revenues, total expenses on Fund 10? Sure. The total revenue, if you flip to page 5, the total revenue is there at the top right, column D, the $8,525,284. Okay, so now if you look in the column to the left, in column C, the $8,916,000, you notice how that number is big, and it's like a bubble and goes back down. That is ESSER money. So we don't know where, necessarily, we don't build that into our budget, and a lot of districts are doing it that way. So we're putting, the things that we can expense to ESSER that are appropriate to do so, we've been doing that, and then planning, we have to spend it all out this year. So that's that extra revenue and extra expenditure that's built into the budget. And again, that's one of the reasons why our surplus at the end of the year is bigger, because we're able to offset certain costs. And I know in the past it's been a question of, well, can we use ESSER money for facilities and things like that? We can't. However, in an indirect way, we've had a bigger surplus, and then that allows us to put our surplus Fund 10 dollars into Fund 46. So indirectly, it is helping to build up that facility fund. So and then the expenditures match. So we built the budget to be balanced. In it, we do have an expense in there of transferring at the end of the year $100,000 into Fund 46. So projecting that surplus, to use that surplus at the end to put it into Fund 46. So, any questions on the big one there, Fund 10? If not, then the next one, Fund 21, is special. That's like our activities funds. So that is the money that gets raised by the different clubs or sports, whatever. It's just a money in, money out account. So that's not impacted by any of our aid or any state aid or anything. That's just money that's raised in an activity account and spent out by those activities. But you can see there's a fund balance in there.
What's business administration?
What are you looking at?
72. Right, 72.
Back on 110.
72. That is, well, Lori, help me. What's the 250 line? That's
fiscal stuff. So that can be custodial, me, transportation. What else is 250s?
yeah. So any expenses related to any of those departments.
Yeah.
Transportation's a big one, obviously.
Yeah. That's like everything that's
Yep.
gas and
Gotcha.
building stuff.
Is that also utilities?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Oh, that's utilities too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Good. So, Fund 27 is Special Education Fund. Just notable in there. So that is a fund, you cannot keep a fund balance in there. You're not allowed to. Every year, we do not get enough aids, federal or state aids, to pay for all of our special ed expenses. So every year, line 99, we do a transfer in from Fund 10. So there's a matching expense in Fund 10, but $676,000 we transferred into special education at the end of the year. And the other expenses in, if you turn to page 6, in special education, that's all the payroll, that's all the employees, that's all the related expenses to anything related to special education. Any questions on that fund? Fund 38 and 39 is the next ones. It's our debt service fund.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what kind of things go into curriculum? What this special education curriculum 147?
So that's going to be I believe is that going to include payroll as well for that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's employees.
Staff.
That's staff. So that's anything
And
related to
supplies
the
or stuff like that.
education part of special education. Yeah. Staff, supplies, curriculum, supplies. But the majority of it's going to be staffing. Yeah. Payroll. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, good. Any other questions on that one? It's good. 38 and 39 is debt service. So this 38 these are related to our referendum and our energy efficiency exemption from back in 2013. So there's two different funds. One is referendum and one is the non-referendum. So they combine them into, they're actually, on our side of things, there's actually we have two different funds, Fund 38, Fund 39, but on this, for whatever reason, this document, they combined it into one. So this is debt service fund.
Energy efficiency.
Yeah, half of it, this goes back and correlates to numbers on our revenue limit worksheet too. So you'll see half and half of it back there. But that is, again, just the money, the revenue that comes in, and then the payments going out is just paying down our debt service. Capital projects is Fund 46. So again, this is that fund that really is a great thing for districts like us who are heavily state aided. So at the end of each fiscal year, it used to be any money you didn't spend down to zero was counted against you the following year. With Fund 46, what you're able to do at the end of the year, if you have surplus dollars, you can transfer them into Fund 46, and they are considered as expensed. That's considered an expenditure out of Fund 10. So then that's considered money spent, so it does not count against your revenue limit authority the following year. And then the caveat is the money that goes into there may only be used for capital facility projects. So that is what we used to pay for our roof last year. And into this year. Some of that payment went into this fiscal year, and then it is what we're using to pay for the track repair and the track redo. So,
If I could, Chris, how did administrators manage without Fund 46 before? How would you get your...
Referendums.
Brad Air likes to ask me how I like having fun because he didn't have that. He said, "Yeah, that's pretty nice." So yeah, you had to.
Crazy last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Lori was definitely a part of that. But yeah, you have to try to spend down everything at the end. Yeah. Now we're also in really unique times these few years, which I realize being new in this chair. But we just passed a referendum, so we have some surplus dollars here in the early years of that, and then we also have these ESSER funds, which so it's a good problem to have. It's not a problem at all, but it's a good problem to solve, is to figure out the best way to manage that,
Right.
massage that to our best benefit. So Fund 46 is. We can see the 347 expenditures that's budgeted in there. That's for the track. The food service fund, kind of self-explanatory. You'll notice that the 22-23 unaudited fund balance was pretty large, $244,000. We've talked about that before. And in fact, we get a letter from the DPI telling us, hey, your Fund 50 balance is too big, you need to get it down. And So we've done that. We did some capital purchases with the dishwasher and water heater last year, some other things. So and costs of food production have gone up too. So that balance is sitting at a good, probably appropriate level right now at 158. So community service fund, that's community ed. We levy $30,000 into that of tax levy, but you can see there's a fund balance in there. So this would be things like community ed programs that are that kids or adults take part in, but it's also a big part of it is the Junior Warriors Child Care Program runs through the community ed fund. So. And that, there's one more on the next page. So Fund 60 is not included in, there's a little explanation on page 7 about why 60, and we don't have any Fund 70s, but why Fund 60 is not, they're considered fiduciary funds. It's kept out of the presentation, but we want to share. So Fund 60 is our local scholarship fund. So again, that's the money, the revenue that goes in there is simply the donations that the I want to say Dollars for Scholars, but that's not the name anymore. What's the correct name? Why can't I? I'm just having a mental block.
Scholarship Foundation.
Scholarship Foundation, thank you. The Scholarship Foundation, it's the donations they get and it's the interest that they earn. That's where all the revenues come from there.
Why are we predicting such a high operating expense for that compared to, it's like $6,000 more?
That, I believe, could be a typo.
Because you look at the scholarships, it's pretty steady, and then all of a sudden,
yeah, and actually, the way we work, the way this worksheet looks a little bit, because the investment transfers or losses, that $35,000, what that is last year is the scholarship foundation, they took $35,000 and invested it in a different in a new fund. So that was actually up under that operation expenses initially. So we had like a $36,000 up there. Why? I don't know. Lori, do you remember why?
And maybe that's what we thought this time too before we switched it down to the different. So they will probably transfer money again. So that probably part of that should probably go down to the next.
I don't know if I printed the wrong.
Because they have been pretty steady about transferring money to.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if I printed the wrong version of this, because I think the same thing. We had figured out that, so that might be a typo on my part. Okay. So, because you're right, the operation expenses we always figure it's about operation expenses is basically postage when they send out their mailing. So that's it.
I know postage might go up, but maybe not that much.
Not that much, I hope.
If that's the case, we might want to hand deliver.
Yeah. So I will double check that. However, the total expenditure looks to be the same, so it'll be, so that part, it would just be a matter of how much is under operation expenses versus investment transfers. So the total of $29,000 though is what is budgeted correctly, so. Good catch. Any other questions on any of that? Again, the next few pages in 9 and 10 are just the shortened, condensed version that goes in the newspaper. Pretty much just shows revenues and expenses for all the funds. And if you look on page 11, it gives a summary of the tax levy, which isn't on the other one. So, and that is where you can see the general fund levy of $1,835,000. The Fund 39 is the $502,000. So 38, I think, and then Fund 39 is 509, I believe. If I get them mixed up, 38 and 39. And then the Community Service Fund, that's the Community Ed Fund, is $30,000. So that's how we get our total tax levy, local tax levy right there, summarized. And then there's just some little charts in the back if you're interested. So. Other questions? Again, this is a best estimate at this time. You know, the revenue limit worksheet will change. You know, the way the process works, we will come back. We'll have a special meeting at the end of October, and all these numbers will be real at that point, and then we'll be able to set the actual exact levy at that time.
Second budget under your belt, just about, Chris?
Yeah.
I think, though, this budget, being that you've got all these dollars to manage, is a pretty easy job now, so we should probably switch some of the line items and take some of our salary back from them. And
Yeah. I wouldn't say easy, but I tell you what, it's a team.
Paperwork is never
It's
easy.
a team
right.
effort, and a ton of credit to Lori for doing an amazing job. But what she does, she deserves a ton of credit, and certainly Joy. And then appreciate. You know, we also get input and check in on things with Baird, who does a great job of just double checking everything, and so
hopefully
team
it's-
effort.
Yeah, hopefully it's kind of a fun task now, again.
I would never use the word fun, Greg, but
I don't know, whenever I have a positive budget, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
If you just haven't had a negative one.
It's happy. I'll call it happy. I'll call it happy.
Well, good times for Clear Lake right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, any other discussion? Then we'll move on to our consideration/approval of a full-time substitute.
I think we do need to approve it. We
Oh.
need to do an official approval.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-24 preliminary budget.
I'll second
It's
it.
been properly moved and seconded to approve the 23-24 preliminary budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll move on to consideration/approval of a full-time substitute teacher/English language tutor position.
So I guess I would like to discuss some compensation matters related to this in closed session. If it'd be okay to table that until after that.
Yep. So we're going to table that. We'll move on to the next item of business, which is the approval of the fall coaching roster.
Okay, so it's attached there. Got a full roster of all of our fall coaches. Football has, of course, started. Got a few changes there. So Brent Paulson's the head coach with Ryan Blanchard, Steve Arcan, and Mark Gatsky. Assisting with the high school level, junior high, Steve Rubel and Seth Amundsen are going to coach junior high, so they'll be new there. That'll be a great team. Those two together. And then volleyball, we have Juliana Rosine as our head coach and Amy Winke as the assistant. That's no change there. New C-team coach, Sarah Coomer, and then we would propose, we're waiting until we anticipate there's going to be some very large numbers in volleyball this year, so looking at a potential fourth coach there, Madison Zimmer, if we have the numbers. We expect it probably will. For junior high, Katina Ingebrigtsen, done it for many years, and then Kaylee Barton, who is one of our fifth grade teachers. She is going to do that as well. She's got a nice background in volleyball. Cross country, Christy Niles is the head coach again, and again, based on numbers, if we need an assistant, which we likely will this year, Kirsten Hughes would assist again, so same group there. And then with dance and cheer, Mrs. Waterman departed, so we have Mrs. Mickelson is moving up, and Jennifer Mickelson up to the head coach position, and then Shauna Peterson is interested in being the assistant dance and cheer. So that's the group I would propose for approval.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the coaching staff.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our coaching staff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business then is the approval of sports medicine contract renewal for 23-24.
Okay, so this is a renewal of our contract with Clear Lake Physical Therapy and Rehab Specialists, and we've been partnering with them for quite a few years. There's really there's no increase in the cost. $6,000 for the whole year, which is a fairly minimal cost for really the service they provide. The thing that's notable is they, like many providers like them, and we're hearing about this across the area, the whole region with different conferences, is difficulty in finding athletic trainers to hire. They're just simply not out there. So they're not going to be able to provide as much. And we purchased a fairly minimal amount of trainer coverage in the past. So they're not going to be able to provide that. However, they're kind of offsetting that with they are providing more assistance with concussion protocol, updating and monitoring. And, that's going to be a big part of what they do. They're going to still be able to provide the after-school services for kids with injuries and the referrals. And we're working on a couple solutions, possibly for some of the game coverage, particularly for the high collision sport of football, on Friday nights especially. So we're working on trying to find some solutions there. So, but I would recommend approval of the renewal of the contract.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the sports medicine contract.
Second. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the sports medicine contract for 23-24. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now, the update on the high school track refurbishing project.
Okay, so just there's been a lot of progress going on out there. So the track has been repaved. That is complete. And in addition, the track itself, but some of the ancillary areas around it, have been redone. So that is complete. So there's a 30-day curing period where it needs to sit and leave it alone before they can come and put the rubber on. There was one segment of the long jump runway that needed to be redone. It just didn't turn out right. It had some ripples in it and just wasn't up to specs. And both parties agreed. The track company agreed and Monarch agreed, and they came in and redid that last week. The downside is it moved the timeline back 1 week, but really we've got time, so they will be coming at some point during the football season on a week when we have an away game, and they will fit it in those 10 or 14 days in between. Be getting the fencing put back in place here before our first football game on the 18th. And also, one thing to note is people will notice at the football field that on the inside of it, it's kind of dug up, and it needs to be backfilled a little bit, some grass planted around the inside to make it look nice again. And what we decided is we're going to do a few areas around the north end zone where the corners of the end zone are fairly close to the track. We're going to fill those in and maybe even put some sod down just for safety to make sure everything is safe. The rest of it, we're going to wait until next spring and do it because we don't want to be out there, we don't want to be driving across the track, with a skid steer, hauling black dirt around and driving on the field right now when it's hot and whatever. So you might notice people might say, well, what's the deal? That doesn't look very nice. Well, we're going to leave it for now, and we're going to do that in the spring or next summer and make it, get the grass plant. When we can take our time and do it right, not rush it right now. So just to FYI, if people note that or ask about it, we'll try to communicate that out so people aren't wondering. But everything's on track. So no pun intended, I guess. So, track there. That was pretty bad. I didn't even mean to do that.
That was a good one.
I wasn't even trying.
Okay, next item of business is the approval of 23-24 elementary and senior high school student family handbooks.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to the principals here for these. Either of you want to volunteer to go first?
I have less than you do, I think.
I'll go first then. Mine's the first one to click on, so if you want to click on it, I'm just going to scroll through. If it's highlighted in yellow, it's new language that is in there. If it's crossed off, it's language that we're removing. So the first couple of pages, there's name updates. I didn't highlight any of those, but just updated all of the new hires in those positions. So if you continue to scroll down on the top of page 5, the third bullet point down, it says seniors who have outstanding financial or detention responsibilities will not take part in the graduation exercises. And then the next line says diploma, that is crossed off, says diplomas will be withheld until all academic and attendance responsibilities are satisfied. Technically we can't hold, legally we can't withhold their diploma based on attendance or fines and fees, nor have we ever attempted to do that. So I've just crossed it off and taken it out of there. There's one other spot, you'll see that too. So, any questions there? Continuing to scroll.
You'll see highlighted language under school absences. I just added in the Skyward attendance keys that we use in the office, just to have them in there, because a lot of times we get questions about what E-MD means. It's not really clear all the time on Skyward. Not that a parent is going to go to this for clarification, but at least it's there now. So those are just additions there. And then we get under truancy or unexcused absences, highlighted there. We have started to use our local police for truancy issues now. It's been a really nice tool to have, to give Tim a call. He can issue a local truancy ticket, and sometimes we get better results with attendance when it's coming from local than from the county. So it's been kind of a nice fit. And typically, what happens is if he issues that, it goes to the city court in Emery, and usually what they will do with our students is provide them with some sort of attendance goal. And if the student meets that goal, they'll throw that ticket out. So it's been a nice carrot for us this last year to use that once, but it wasn't in our handbook, so I wanted to add that in there. I'm going to continue on if there aren't any questions. Top of page 10. This cleans up some of the graduation stuff that I talked about up top. Seniors not meeting the prorated minimum attendance requirements will not receive a signed diploma until those requirements are met. That's crossed off. We can't legally do that. And then it says, and will not be allowed to participate in the graduation ceremony. However, seniors may begin excessive absent makeup. And it used to say on the Friday following graduation practice, but typically we try to correct this before graduation so we can get them to participate in the ceremony. So I've crossed off the Friday following graduation and added new language that says during the fourth quarter of their senior year leading up to graduation. So typically by partway through their senior year, we've got their attention. Mom and dad want them in the ceremony. We can start taking care of some of that stuff before we get to the ceremony, and with the goal of getting everybody that graduates to be able to participate in that ceremony.
So Brian, if I could ask, and I don't know if I'm not reading or interpreting this correctly, but if a student gets his credentials satisfied by halfway through his senior year, he wouldn't have to attend school and he would get his diploma.
That is correct, but there could be some truancy issues there.
Okay.
We'd want them to apply for
Apply for
early
early
graduation.
We would
Okay.
encourage
Which we've
them
had
to
some
apply
kids
for early
do.
graduation at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Which takes some work because they have to satisfy that English requirement their senior year, which some have done. We've done it in the past, so.
Okay.
Scrolling down, minor tweak to detentions. Since we updated where last year staff could pick whether they work from 7:30 to 3:30 or from 8 to 4, we've added in that 7:30 a.m. detention because I've got staff here. It's kind of a nice tool for me when a kid has a detention because they've been tardy to school 3 times, to have them assign it at 7:30 a.m. That gets them here hopefully on time, and they really dislike it, so I just added in that it could be at either of those times. And typically what we do there is just work with the teacher and the student to figure out a time that works for them. It also is kind of nice too for our student athletes because then they're not missing, they're not letting their teammates down after school by missing practice as well. Continuing to scroll, we go a ways now. The last part here is our wrap time warrior resource and advisory period. We're grouping students than we had in the past. Before we're putting all high school students together. Now we're breaking it into 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, and 11th and 12th. And then also, I sent out an email today to high school parents. We're making some tweaks to our wrap period, just trying to get more of an academic focus during that time period. So we're taking some things away. So that's why you'll see the travel privileges crossed off because it doesn't pertain anymore. then the only thing left is at the very bottom, we've added to all of these handbooks just our non-discrimination policy, and then the compliance officer, so that it's available for students and staff on all of our handbooks.
Very good.
All right. So the elementary student handbook, again, updated staff, and then if you just refer to pages 7 and 8, it's just the updated pupil non-discrimination with the individuals, the compliance officers. And you'll see some highlighted green later. That's just something I need to check on just to update, just for my reminder. It's just some breakfast, lunch, and milk prices. And that is all for the elementary.
Do we want to, are we approving those or going on to the, do all of them and then approve them all?
I think we should, it's an agenda item, we probably should approve each agenda item, I suppose.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve
Thank you.
both the elementary and the junior high school student family handbooks. All in favor? Wait.
I would like to talk about cell phone stuff. I don't think cell phones should be able to be used at all between the time school starts and the time school ends, in my opinion. I don't know. You can research it. It just, we've had plenty of problems, and I think that, I don't see the need for having cell phones during lunch period. And you go to our new 5 pillars and, or however many pillars.
4.
You know, and I think our community is looking for a higher standard, and I think it's a great place to start.
What's the administration? What is the administration? How does the administration feel?
My biggest thing is I think our students and our parents view our cell phone policy as reasonable. My fear is that if we take that next step and they no longer see it as reasonable, I'm going to get it's going to be very difficult to police in this building, and I'm going to start to get a lot of pushback from a lot of parents. This past year, when I had to take a kid's cell phone for a day or multiple days, never overnight, just they leave it in the office, parents were very understanding. My fear is if we take that next step, that we will have kids who currently follow our cell phone policy without issue. I think when these kids start to see a policy as unreasonable, they'll start to push back against it, which is gonna, I think it would be extremely difficult to police that. I think it would take a lot of time and energy of the staff to try and police that in the lunchroom and in the hallways.
Didn't we at one time have a no cell phone policy in place?
Yeah, and Matt, that's a lot of people are wrestling with this question because it's definitely a
I would think out of sight,
societal.
out of mind for a whole day would probably be easier.
Say that again.
In my opinion, I would think out of sight, out of mind at the beginning of the day would be a lot easier to police.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we want to look at, is the policy reasonable, and is it enforceable? That's the enforceable part. So I would go, since I've been around here a while, I can go back to when I was high school principal. We had exactly that, no phones at all. That was prior to like 2010. So it was no phones. Phones were banned. Your rule was your phone should be turned off or silenced in your locker, not on your person. And that was the rule. And if they were out and seen, they were taken away, and probably had harsher punishments back then. I can say, as when I was the principal, it did not eliminate phones. The kids were, sneaking them around now. They had them in their sweatshirt pockets. They're using them in the bathroom. So at the time we shifted to basically the policy that we have now, which is, out of sight, out of mind, unless it's lunchtime. We did also on the. This was back then. We also looked, at the passing time too. So they're able to check their phones during lunchtime and passing time. And they're not allowed, should be not seen nor heard during class time, unless, and this was in the day before devices, unless the teacher had an activity where they legitimately wanted them to use their phone. Say, all right, take out your phone, and there used to be little different apps where you could do a quiz, or you could do all right, answer on your phone. There was a little bit of that went on for a period of time, and then that kind of wasn't really much of a trend in education anymore. So I guess, the question would be enforceability, and the kids the students who misuse the phones now. I don't know that I'm not certain that the rule, that banning it completely is going to change those kids who are already misusing. Again, kind of like what Brian's saying. I think that 80-90% of our kids use their phones appropriately. It's a question of do we want to ban them completely for all kids? There's that 10% that's going to use them inappropriately, or when they shouldn't, or whatever. I do think, and we've talked about this too, I think an enforcement issue, there's some inconsistency, I think, that goes on right now.
I'd agree with that.
Where the policy that we do have needs to be enforced and needs to be consistent, and that's something that Brian's talked about.
And I'll be the first to tell you that, not only here, but I think any school in the country would tell you that cell phones are a major issue that we deal with on a regular basis. I'm just not convinced that banning them completely fixes the problem. I think it potentially creates more problems for us. And like Chris said, one thing that we're going to hit hard early this year is I do think we have inconsistency from classroom to classroom on our current policy, and we need to shore up that consistency.
So, how much do cell phones need to be used for class?
Rarely. I can think of 2 teachers right now off the top of my head that will come to me during the year a couple of different times and say, hey, I've got this going, is it okay? And yeah, absolutely. For academic purposes, they got a project going, or maybe they're using it to grab some pictures of different things because they're doing some sort of scavenger hunt or something like that. But other than that,
doesn't need to.
But if you say no phones, that means none during the day. So for those of us who text our kids saying, here's where you need to be after school, here's what needs to be done, here's your chore list, that communication doesn't happen. So that means instead of me texting my kid, here's what I need you to do, it's going to be more phone calls to the office saying, I need to leave a message.
Chromebook emails too.
They do, but they don't check their email like a professional.
High school kids are not good at checking their email. That is
We
true.
shouldn't really be
But that
sending
changes it.
checklist to kids though when they're trying to learn.
No, that's not,
But it's-
I don't agree with that, but tell us why. Why don't you think cell phones should be used or have the kids have them in school? Yeah.
Several reasons. You've got, for one, it's distraction. We're here to listen to teachers, and teachers are growingly having issues with attention from students. It's a screen. 2, I've got kids like my own that, I could definitely afford to buy them a cell phone, but I don't want to for, many reasons that I've gone through in my own home. There's reasons why I don't want my kids in front of a screen. There's a lot of things that are unhealthy to them. Spiritual stuff too. And when you get into the school, that's peer pressure. I hear my kids all the time, why can't I have a regular cell phone like everybody else? And I don't want my kids to have a screen. They have a cell phone. They can text all they want, but at the same time, they shouldn't have to feel that peer pressure. That's not fair to them, because it's just, and it's, in my opinion, it's just like being bullied. It's the same thing. That they don't have a certain type of phone like somebody else, and they're often, the rest of the team is getting Snapchat, and they're not. My kids aren't getting the Snapchat from all the teammates and all the coaches and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's fair. I just, I don't think it. I don't, you know, that affects a kid. You know, it's 13, 14 years old, and it's going to affect their, you know, those kind of pressures and peer pressures are going to affect their academics.
Yeah, I can see that. I've got a 11-year-old daughter, 10-year-old daughter who, you know, would be glued to that thing nonstop, but we don't allow that to happen. But I also, when we're having discussions about something, taking the opportunity to Google it. Tell me what, you know, do a little research and tell me what you come up with, and healthy things to do with the phones. Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with the no phone thing. I think we got to teach the kids to use them responsibly and to fit them into our lives and not let them negatively affect us. And I know that's a tough thing. I've always been a proponent of growing our kids up quicker than we should, and that's just to combat the battles that they have, you know, in this world. I might be wrong, but I don't know.
How much trouble is there in the elementary? Because obviously they're not passing between grades, so they would use them at lunch. Is that, I mean, are they having trouble? Like, we don't use them at all in the elementary building?
No.
So it's a different rule for elementary and high school?
So in the elementary handbook, on page 32, it does say, I mean, we use the word mobile phones, iPods and MP3s, but that they may not use them during school hours because we don't have the luxury of that passing time and open lunch and there's multiple age levels. Are they coming to school? I believe they are. When a teacher or myself sees one, then we will deal with it. But otherwise, a lot of times they come and the kids use them on the bus just to kind of watch a little video or something. But we really do not see them. Is it growing, however? Are younger and younger kids getting cell phones? Yes. So could it potentially? Yes. But as of this year, twice maybe, I had to deal with the cell phone.
Yeah, it's not very much, but they're definitely there. And I know that interactions I would have too with those parents sometimes, you know, there were parents who wanted their elementary child to have that phone so they could text them on the bus if they were home or not, or what, you know, just directions after school, things like that. So
I think the difference thing now is they do the watch thing.
Yeah.
So I have had young kids go into the bathroom and be doing stuff with their smartwatch.
How do you help have the same policy, and it's more in each area? I mean, lunch and passing, how do you enforce that? And I guess one thing I would agree with Matt on it, even though I would say cell phones are okay, is we need to make sure coaches and groups don't communicate over apps that are only available through that, like Snapchat. Because my kids have run into that where before we let them have them at 15 or 16, that they were sending messages via those apps, and when certain kids don't have that, that's it. All kids have to be able to communicate on the same mode.
Yeah, they should be using Remind if they're doing an app like that, because that's more appropriate. It's more anonymous.
Something
it's not
with
on
that.
social
At
media.
least I would strictly enforce for activities or sports that you can't communicate on something that not everybody has.
So most of us, probably all, have walked the halls in our high school careers and known what school was like and how kids interacted during the passing of the classes in the grade school and stuff. But I don't know if any of us know what it's like right now with cell phones in the kids' hand. What difference has that made with kids having cell phones in their hands during lunch period or recess?
I would say the lunch period looks different. The hallways, it's fast. That interaction's still there. I mean, kids will, they're doing stuff quick, but they're moving and it's busy. But the lunchroom is, and you can witness this just about anywhere, is kids sitting around, an entire table might be on a device.
Texting each other.
Right.
You see that basketball.
Which is not something I'm excited about, but I also think we see that with adults too.
Yeah.
How does it help with the social skills in the future, though? I mean, if we're here to teach leadership and those kind of things.
Yeah. That's a concern of society.
Kids can't talk to each other when they're older.
Yeah.
You know, lunch is something that social skill is learned too, is a learning.
Yep.
I mean, the nice thing is our junior high kids typically have access to the gym after they eat, and still the vast majority of them are going in and they're shooting hoops or got a volleyball going back and forth, they're running around. So that is a positive that they are choosing that over looking at their phone. I would say the vast majority of the younger kids.
How long is the lunch hour?
30 minutes.
How long is the whole school day?
7.5.
7.5.
Seven.
So you're talking about a minimal amount of time that you're allowing a student to choose how they want to socialize.
Yeah, I agree.
We're determining of those 7-some hours how they're going to work, and we're basically giving you a 30-minute reprieve where you can socialize with your friends, you can do something on a device, you can go into the gym.
And plus the 3 minutes between each class, which, you know, by the time
It
they
still
get out of a
becomes
class
very
and get to a
minimal.
class,
Go
a
back or
minute,
whatever,
basically a
there's not
minute,
much
yeah.
time. Yeah.
And I don't know that I would assume that every student who has a phone has Snapchat and all of those apps on it either.
I would agree with that.
Because I think some of that is a parental control per household. Because I get the social piece, but I'm also trying to look at this from the entire school day. Every classroom should have a social, interactive, group work type component built into the curriculum. So there are students who do need that 30 minutes to not talk to anybody because there are extreme introverts.
Sure.
And your extroverts, the phone isn't going to make them quiet. They could be doing both at the same time.
They're good at it.
Yeah. All the concerns that you listed, Matt, I agree with. All those are concerns. But if I want to send my kid a message, I want them to be able to get my message. And if they've got something they want to tell me, the device has got positive uses, and I would want my kid to be able to communicate with me at all times.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to. I think Greg, you said it nicer. Is there needs to be? It is for some of us that connection directly to the parent. If schedules change, things change. It's nice for us to know.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy discussion because those are good points. Those are concerns in our whole society right now. It's our. I think of it. I'm always the history guy, and I think of when we had automobiles were a new invention. That turned our society upside down, and it took us a while to figure out how we're going to manage. And we're going through this tech age right now, these 30 years, where we're figuring out how to manage these new pieces of technology that we have, in our hands. And
not only you guys, but the parents are trying to figure out how to do the same.
Oh yeah, because it's not just we're just a reflection of what you can go to outside of school and you see the same, concerns or phenomenon. Yeah.
I think Mrs. Anderson brings a great point. We're talking about cell phones. She's talking about watches. I think we're almost a little bit behind on this.
I think an abrupt stop though is going to put a lot of strain on teachers, and that's not. I mean, your day would be fielding calls instead of doing your job. Teachers would be the same way.
Yeah, man, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I'm not convinced that it solves the problems that we all agree exist. I think it potentially creates more problems than it solves. Because if I thought it solved the problems, I'd be 100% on board.
Yeah. Well, and the truth of the matter is, if you feel that way, we're not going to change your mind. I mean, everyone's got their own convictions, right? It just comes down to, well, do you guys want to, take a vote up? And if we have a higher number that want it or don't want it, that's just how we decide. And that's so I'll pull the board then, Matt. I know how you feel.
Sounds like we're all.
Chris, I know how you.
I mean, I was really strict with my kids for a while till they got in activities, and that everybody else has it wasn't ever true, because I would call other parents, and not that I was going to change, but I mean, we just didn't let our kids have them either, and they knew that was the rule. So keep strong in what you feel convicted on, and there were certain apps we wouldn't allow. So our kids just lived with it until they were in activities or were driving.
Yep.
So.
Good for you, Nanny, and good for you too for doing the same thing.
It's a challenge every day.
Yeah.
There's some days I get like, I don't want them to have it. Next day I'm like, here I am tracking them, calling them down, you know, because I got to get a hold of them, and it's handy, but I don't know the right answer.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, man.
It's a good, healthy discussion.
All right, let's everybody wake our computers up here. Put in our passwords.
So we're all sitting here on devices.
You know, I saw one of those, and it was a good thought-provoking thing, but it was a picture of, you know, back in the 1920s or 30s or 40s, black and white, and it was all these businessmen riding on the subway, on the train, in their suits, every one of them with their face in a newspaper, and, you know, and it said, you know, cell phones have made us antisocial, and it's like, you know, thought-provoking. You know, here they were all riding together, and they were all had their nose in a newspaper 70 years ago or 80 years ago. It's interesting, too.
Okay, well, did we approve those?
Did we approve the
Nope.
elementary?
No.
Go for it.
No.
All right, I will entertain a motion then.
I move to approve the elementary and junior senior high student family handbooks.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 23-24 elementary and junior high school student family handbooks. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any nays? The motion passes. Next item of business is then the approval of the 23-24 elementary and junior senior high handbooks.
If you click on the junior senior high one, the bottom of page 3, same thing as the other handbook, is just the highlighted portion is the non-discrimination policy that we're putting on everything. If you scroll down to page 5, the workday portion last year, I think it was in September, maybe it was later in August, before, it was after we approved the handbook. The board approved giving teachers the option of working that 7:30 to 3:30 or 8 to 4. So I crossed off the language that used to be in there and added in the language that the board approved last year. As far as the workday goes, scrolling down a little ways, we get to the bottom of page 9. Again, just updating some detention supervision. We do not have weekly assignments for staff anymore. Instead, students who are assigned detention due to being tardy or removed from class, we schedule a time with that teacher. Our thought is if a student is missing part of a class, that it's good to go back to that classroom for 2 reasons. Make up the time that they missed and potentially a repair conversation with that teacher so that student feels comfortable coming back into class the next day. Any other detentions outside of that, I'll take care of in the office. Scrolling down quite a ways now to, I got some names crossed off under page 15, clubs and activities, just some staff members that have left that we need to find advisors for, and a couple of clubs that no longer exist, so those are crossed off there. And then the last piece is the wrap period, just updating some of the language so it matches some of the changes that we're going to make going into this year.
Very good. Thank you.
And then elementary, again, pages 6 and 7, just the updated non-discrimination policy. And then on page 9, just the updated work hours for staff, which we will offer again this year if they want to change their choice from last year to better fit their situation.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 elementary and senior high handbooks.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the elementary and junior high school handbooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the 23-24 district support staff employment handbook.
Okay, I can take this one. If you open this one up, so this is support staff, so, paras, secretaries, any, non-teaching staff in the buildings. Not much here. If you scroll down, there's, date changes and so on. Scroll down to, where is it here?
Vacation.
Yeah, page 14, thank you. We had a category in there that was 0 to 2 years and 5 vacation days a year, and felt like that was pretty minimal benefit for people for their first 2 years, so bumped that up to 10 days. Just took away that category, just did 0 to 5 instead of 0 to 2 and 3 to 5. So also just an adjustment that the 240 switching it to 230. This basically affects about 2 employees, and switching the number of days. It's actually reflective of the contracts that were agreed to and they were offered, and they had special language written into them. This just cleans it up. It's really, that's it. It's just kind of cleaning up some language. I don't know if there's any questions there. And I believe it's been a while since I looked at that, or since we updated this. I think that's pretty much just scrolling through the rest of
You
it.
changed the job posting thing?
Yeah, page 28.
Yep. Yeah, just made sure that was a little more reflective of where we actually post jobs. There's a bank listed there that
Because
no
the
longer
first
exists. And yeah, so district webpage added that in there and took out the bank. So in fact, at one point the bank where we used to put, they took down their bulletin board. We went down there one time, and this is quite a few years ago, and just bulletin board's gone because we can't post down here anymore. So those are the only changes.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the district support staff handbook.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the district support staff employee handbook for 23 and 24. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. The next item of business is the 23-24 district teacher employment handbook.
Okay. So if you, again, very little change in here. If you scroll down to page 5, and this is just the co-curricular pay rates that you guys approved back in April, updated in there. Also, which again you approved it in April, just summer pay $24 an hour now instead of $21 an hour. The main thing was, let's see how far I got to scroll here. Okay, page 15, early retirement. This is something I discussed at the end of the year with the compensation committee. So currently, it says February 1st, so the retiring teacher, so this is in order to qualify for the early retirement local benefit that we have here in Clear Lake. All the other criteria, of course, that are listed there. But on number 4, right, retiring teacher must notify the administration in writing on or before. It used to say April 15th. Switching it to February 1st, just because April 15th was old contractual. That was when contracts got issued back in the old days. That's not even when they get issued anymore. Now it's May 15th. But also, if we have someone who's retiring, the advantage of that is that you hope to have a transition where you get to hire somebody. So we want to have it where we know early. So this would allow us to know and approve the resignation or retirement in the February board meeting, so we could get it posted in late February, early March, which is really beneficial. So that's the reason for that. I ran that by the compensation committee. They totally understood the rationale behind it, I think, and didn't really have any concerns.
Happens if for some reason somebody decides they didn't want to retire on February 1st and then now they wanted to on March 15th.
So the way we handle it at the technical college, because we have the same type of thing, is that it's up to the board discretion to waive that.
Is that how we want to handle it here?
I feel like sometimes there's extenuating
Yeah, something's gonna
circumstances
happen
where something
somewhere.
comes up and it's in the benefit of the individual to retire rather than continue. I mean, I'm thinking medical conditions, different things like that, family situations.
Family situation, yeah. I think there's always opportunity for grace and yeah, the human side of things. I think, yeah, the board always has its discretion to override it. But this is just encouraging kind of the typical situation to say, hey, we want to know earlier than later so we can
Yep, I can see that.
do the right thing.
But we should probably put some language in there. or do we just handle that and set a precedent when it happens?
I mean,
I think you wait and see until it happens and then you handle it from there.
I think any date we put down, there's all, you know, there could have been someone that missed the April deadline and all of a sudden something happens in May too, you know. I don't know.
Or does the administration want to say, too bad, you can't, you gotta go another year now?
I feel like he wants the board to say that instead of him. I think how you're written is fine.
Just raising a question, that's all.
No, good
No.
question. No. Otherwise, the only other change again is at the very end, the same as with how we post jobs. We added the district webpage and we added weekend instead of, we don't send to the universities anymore. We post it on weekend, which is kind of the same thing. So those are the only changes to the teacher handbook.
All right, I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 District Teacher Employment Handbook.
Do I hear a second? All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the district teacher employment handbook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Sorry, just a quick question. When we say that we post our, is that the only places that we would be able to post them then? Or-
It's not the only, no, it's not limited to that. We're trying to say that's kind of the minimal
Okay.
that we try to do. And it does say in there, you know, can be waived. You know, we always have extenuating circumstances. No, like we'll put it on Facebook, we'll email it sometimes.
Okay.
So, yep. Yeah, good question.
Cell phones.
Okay.
Oh, anyway, I'm sorry, falling asleep here. Next item of business then is the update, or no, teacher compensation model revision.
Yeah, and this is a small thing as well, and this is kind of a benefit, I think, that would help people out. So this is on page 2. This is language about supplemental pay, like when someone gets a master's. So, or a national board certification, or earns a 316, 317 reading license. Degree, certification, or license must be earned prior to July 1st. And it's just what it used to say, and then you had to submit the transcript or verification by July 31st. We would like to change that to degree must be earned prior to the start of the upcoming school year. We really don't care if they earn it in June or July or August 15th, as long as they're able to supply the transcript before the end of the summer. You know, like for Lori, if we have to update somebody's payroll, knowing by September 1st is fine. The first paycheck goes out on September 15th. So this just gives a little bit more leeway, so you avoid a situation where, you know, someone worked hard to finish their master's degree and they didn't finish till July 15th and they don't get you there. You know, now you're going to say to them, well, you have to wait a whole another year. We didn't really feel like that was, you know, real morale boosting. So if somebody earns their master's, you know.
Most universities' summer terms end July 31st.
Yeah. So it's just just something that I think is going to be a little bit more of a benefit, and it really has no, doesn't pose any obstacles or any challenges in the office for as far as payroll goes. It's just a little bit more fair. So that is the only change in there.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the teacher compensation model revision.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the teacher compensation model revision. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next item of business is the approval of the district transportation handbook.
And this one, again, there's no changes other than names and dates. It's the bus rider rules. It's the policies for the drivers to follow. There's no changes to it from what's been approved recent years other than names and dates.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the district transportation handbook.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the district transportation handbook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of the 23-24 in-person instruction plan.
Okay, we're on a roll here. So this would be a requirement in order to, this is part of ESSER funds and part of COVID and pandemic related, so we are still required to have a return to in-person instruction plan on file for the 23-24 school year. So I changed the dates and there's no other changes to the plan from last year. Basically, it's how we've been operating for the last couple years. There's no changes to it. So.
Then I will entertain another motion.
I move to approve the 23-24 in-person instruction plan.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 23-24 in-person instruction plan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then the next item of business is consideration/approval of the district consultant for implementing strategic planning and goal setting.
Okay. So, I have a proposal that I was given from Dr. Sarin, who worked with our VEST team and our, cultivating community process throughout the January until now. And it's a proposal that would assist us for the next school year through next June with the implementation phase now taking it. So I guess I would ask if the board would be willing to table that into a close. There's some competitive bid financial considerations to discuss, I think, in a closed.
Yep, we'll table that then, and we'll do that in closed. Then we'll move on to the next item of business. Discussion of administrative annual meeting date of Monday, August 28th at 7 p.m.
Okay, so again, just I want to get it on the record that that's when the annual meeting will be. 7 p.m., a little different start time. Last Monday in August, fairly traditional time for Clear Lake, how we've done it over the many years. So just wanted to remind everybody of that as far as our public who's listening, and just everybody on the board. I know we maybe have a couple people who can't make it, I think. Maybe? Yeah, okay. But we'll be okay. So it's all there, just information.
All right, then the next item of business for us are board policy updates and approval. Second readings, we have...
Yeah, so the first one is definitions. I'll open it up and remember just in the green highlights, just definitions of legal notice, and we do not designate an official newspaper. When we do use a newspaper, typically we'll use the Amory Free Press, but we also, if appropriate with the timelines, if it makes sense, we'll put things in the Chronicle as well, because they only publish monthly, there's certain things that just they can't do, or it doesn't make sense to do in there. So, but we do not have an official newspaper. Do you want to prove them all at once, or okay?
Yeah.
Then, if you recall, there's a number of these: 3215, 4215, 5512. 7434 all relate to tobacco and nicotine use. One is for teacher staff, one is for support staff, students, use on school grounds, and basically the main substantive change is that it includes language in there about the definition of smoking, and it already included vaping products, but it specifically includes marijuana and hemp plant-derived substances, whether or not legally sold in Wisconsin, including CBD, production, Delta-8 THC, Delta-9 THC. So basically adding those into the same category as, say, cigarettes and smokeless tobacco. Not allowed on campus and not allowed to be used here. Search and seizure. Sorry, it's been a couple days, a little while since I've looked at this one too. Been doing lots of things.
We just authorize you to conduct searches of your own student
principals. And again, it's no substantive changes, just some language changes in there. And facility security. This one, again, I think authorize the district administrator to conduct searches or investigations with reasonable suspicion of law breaking. And then we also have, I have technical changes. If you recall, so a year ago when we discussed board updates, we said that there were technical changes. There's no board action needed. This is where they're just changing, like, say, a he/she to a them or something like that, and just language changes. So I just for transparency, just listed what all of them are. There's no change to the policy. It's just language updates that don't impact what the policy means. So those would be all up for a second reading.
And I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the board policy updates and approvals.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve board policy updates and approvals, which include 100 definitions update, 3215, use of tobacco and nicotine by professional staff, 4215, use of tobacco and nicotine by support staff, 5512, use of tobacco by students, 5771, search and seizure, 7434, use of tobacco and nicotine on school premises, 7440, faculty security update. Is that it? Okay, yep, that's it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business are the first readings.
Okay, so the 5200 attendance policy. If you open up that one and scroll down to the green area, it just updates some definitions on truancy, habitual truant, part of a school day, how that's done. Honestly, when I read these, I don't even know what's different here from what was if this language wasn't, because it's pretty basic language and it's pretty, that green part, not much to that. It pretty much reads like what we have in our handbooks stuff right now. They do, I guess what they did is they took something, if you scroll further down, there's some language that's been struck out from the old policy, so I guess they just kind of moved it and cleaned it up into a different format. I see nothing in here that is any substantive change. There's a clause in there making note about someone's open enrollment. If the student is, just about the proper ways to make sure that you communicate with an open enrolled family, because that is a way that open enrollment can be revoked, is if you're truant or habitually truant. So that one's fairly straightforward. Questions on that one? Policy 5410 is promotion, placement, and retention. I believe I was explained by our person from Neola that this was perhaps a new legislative requirement that came down. Definitions of promotion, definitions of placement and retention, and then there's always been, that I can recall, there's always been a requirement to have a promotion policy from moving on from 4th to 5th grade, moving on from 8th to 9th grade. I believe there was statutory language that was updated, so this is basically in order to be promoted. The 4th grade examination, which is the state test, is one way. If you get a 3 or higher on that, probably not a great way to judge promotion in my book as an educator. But then also any of the following that, or the student's academic performance, passing a majority of their subjects, and the recommendation of a majority of teachers as well. There's a lot of research that would indicate that retaining students, especially beyond a very, very young age, there's really no benefit to doing that for them academically. But this is a policy we have to have, as it was explained to me. Questions on that one? Update to 5517, student anti-harassment. I don't know if you just want to kind of scroll through. Typically, changes like this to language to these policies probably result from either a new law being passed or a new rule coming down from federal or state level rulemaking agency, or perhaps a court case that was won or lost, and it's a cleaning up language to make a policy more strong and more stringent, more clear. attorneys that work for Neola, specializing in Wisconsin, write these. Some clauses in there for if the complaint involves a district administrator, complaints about specific allegations of bullying, aggressive behavior, specific laying out of timelines, minimal timelines. If anybody sees anything in there, a question about.
Which one are we on?
We're still on 5517 anti-harassment. Obviously, we've got the month to,
Look at
if you
it.
want to review it more thoroughly. Want me to move on?
Yeah.
5451.01 Academic Excellence Scholarship. Okay, this is one that just a cleanup that we initiated locally. This was kind of missed when it was passed in the past. We have always, ever since we've had AP classes, since the late 90s probably, we have always used weighted grades for AP classes, just for AP classes. And this policy from Neola came in and it states unweighted grades. So we caught that discrepancy between our student handbook and the board policy. So we just wanted to strike the word unweighted out of there. And then also we caught that it references a policy 5430 that we don't have, which is a whole policy you can have. It's an optional policy about class rank. That's something we could go back and work on a deeper policy on class rank, but striking that would just mean that we would just follow the same procedures and past precedent we've always used with how we develop class rank, which is kind of well established. So this was
How do
language.
the grades for those students who participate in, like, Start College Now, do those come in at a weighted level then too?
They do not. They do not.
So how can AP be weighted, but those who are taking college level courses not come in as weighted?
Good question. Yeah, we talked about that.
Are they just pass-fail though, Christy?
No, there are actual letter grades, and our standard at the technical college, the percentages are higher. You have to be 94% to get an A, so it's even a higher percentage to get an A.
Yeah. I think the answer there is we see a real disparity and discrepancy between different institutions and college credits and how difficult they are or how rigorous they are, The thing with AP is it's very, what's the right word? It's very regulated as far as from the College Board. It's very, what's the right? I don't know. The right word I'm trying to think of is it's very regulated in terms of the consistency of expectations. So if you take AP, Mr. Crawford's sitting here, so I think of AP US History. If you take it in Clear Lake or Glenwood City or Milwaukee or Omaha, Nebraska, you're taking the same curriculum. If you take, I'll speak from my own family experience. My daughter took psychology from one of our UW schools here. It was not more challenging than some of her high school. It was definitely less challenging than some of her high school classes. And we also see college classes that are very rigorous.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no standard set there.
There's a transfer agreement which would have a standard, because you'd have to cover the same competencies, and how you cover them is up to the instructor, but there's typically standard assessments. I just think there's a disadvantage to the student who's going and doing the Start College Now and getting their credits, that they're going to be penalized from this type of an academic scholarship.
Yeah. That's the argument. The other argument is that they're getting the credit automatically. AP, you have to take the class, and then you have to pass a really, really hard test to maybe get college credit. And then also I lost my train of thought. I had 2 points to make there.
The other worry, Chris, that we discussed there was you take your top 5 or 6 kids, they may not want to take any classes from us. And they're taking they're trying to get into every college class that they can, and every college class might not mean microbiology or organic chemistry, and now we have to determine which ones get grade weighted and which ones don't. We could go anywhere from organic chemistry to
basket weaving.
To basket weaving, a welding class. I mean, it's so all over the board to try and determine whether it would qualify for grade weighted or not. I think opens a huge can of worms.
There's also I think part of the reason to address that too was, there's the academic excellence scholarship. There's also the technical excellence scholarship too. So, a student who takes more tech ed classes and technical classes and maybe doesn't take AP classes, can still earn that scholarship too. So I think that, I'm guessing that's kind of where that arose from, was that disparity there, to say, well, why do we only give the scholarship to the college-bound, 4-year traditional college-bound versus, kids who are...
How much is the academic excellence scholarship?
I want to say $2,500 a year. That's probably from a few years ago. Is it more than that now?
Oh, I read it every
I think
year too.
it's-
I can picture it. I want to say it's like $4,500 a year renewable for 4.
Okay.
So how much does it cost for an AP student to take a class?
Nothing.
Us.
To take the class?
You have to pay for it, you get it back if they
test.
pass the class.
No. You don't
Not
pay for
an
a
AP class.
Not an AP
We
class.
pay,
So-
that's college classes.
Oh.
We
College
pay for
classes,
that.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
AP classes taught here pay nothing. They pay
Oh, to take the test. That's right.
$93 to take the test.
Okay.
And we often pay half of that to encourage kids to take it.
Yep.
And I want to emphasize, this isn't changing anything. This is just to bring it into compliance with what we currently
No.
do. So.
Christy, I've gone back.
I'm trying to do the math to determine how much it's even valid to continue this conversation, or just say, if you're academic excellence, you're better off doing the Start College Now, because you're going to get X amount of money and not worry about where you stand
Sure.
with class rank. If you look at the fiscal
Yeah.
piece of college.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to get.
That's-
You're getting those
You're
college
getting those
credits
credits.
for
Yeah.
free
Yep.
automatically.
Yeah.
If you take AP, you're not necessarily
There's not
getting
an
credits.
automatic piece with it.
Yeah. So it's an incentive for kids to not be penalized for taking very rigorous classes. And knowing a little bit about some of the AP classes, I mean, it's kind of like, again, I was a history teacher. Mr. Crawford teaches it currently, but it's kind of the joke of how hard AP US history test is, way harder than any college history class that probably any of the 3 of us ever took. It's very rigorous. So it's a way to have those kids not be penalized for, you know, really hard to get an A in an AP class too.
It's nice to know it all comes down to the coin flip in the end, though.
Yeah, thankfully, that's never happened in life.
We can't solve problems with paper, rock, scissors.
Yeah, that's something I hope I never see.
I just thought that was funny.
And then the last one, a 8450, control of casual
Go for
contact
academic
communicable
excellence.
diseases.
I do think we should put it in the students' hands and make them do rock, paper, scissors instead of a coin.
Yeah, let them do it
And then
themselves.
put it in their own hands.
Go ahead, Chris.
So this one is, again, not a lot of substantive change to it.
One of the things that I wanted to say about this one, or just share for us to consider, is in here it says that we will, in order to protect the health and safety of the students, district personnel, and the community at large, the board shall follow all state statutes and health department regulations that permit to immunization and other means for controlling casual contact communicable diseases spread through normal interaction in school building. Oh, that's not the part that I wanted
I'm like,
to
what's the
read.
question?
So that's saying.
Well, with in mind, you know, just going through this COVID thing, COVID would fall under a communicable disease. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, we shall follow all state statutes and health department regulations. Well, health department, we questioned our health department when we went through our COVID problems this last time. And in fact, the discrepancies that came up, Josh decided to not go with their recommendations and we went and did our own thing.
Well, I read this as state health department. I think the issues that came up with the local county health department, wasn't it? I think it was maybe.
Yeah, it was,
that
I
really
guess.
was our
Yeah. No, fair point. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, instead of what I'm saying is, instead of tying our hands to our chairs, why don't we say we shall consider rather than shall follow?
I agree.
My hesitation with that would just be the
We shall follow the state statutes, that's what we're governed to do, but we're not, why the hell would we tie our hands to our chairs to follow the health departments, especially after what we went through here?
yeah. I mean, I think we followed the regulations throughout COVID. I don't think any of the concerns we had, that Dr. Ernst had with the county were, I don't think it was even their regulations. I think it was more their, didn't it relate to WIA stuff, maybe. I don't remember any sporting stuff. Maybe I don't know what you're referring to. Maybe there's something I don't know.
Well, it was the health department wanted us, it forced our school
Does it
district.
have to do with contact tracing? Is that
It
what
had, yeah,
is-
they forced us to do all the work for contact
That's
tracing
the whole county.
and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't trust those agencies when it comes to communicable diseases because they can throw and we saw this, they can throw anything. It was COVID they threw under that umbrella and forced us to do things that they thought were better for us, when now it's coming out that a lot of things that were forced were not.
You don't
Their
think it's gonna
intentions
happen?
might have been correct. That's even questionable, maybe. But what I'm saying is, as a board, why would we adopt something that we don't have to? You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah, and I'd maybe want to ask our insurance company what they would say if we're going to say we're not going to follow state health department regulations, if they might have.
We're
an
not
issue
saying
with
we're
that.
not gonna follow,
We're gonna say
but we're gonna consider.
Well,
Especially in the pandemic, like that wasn't a. Rules were changing at such a fast rate that it was hard to keep up.
Well, yeah, it was a mess, and on either side of the fence, as a governing board, I think we should look in on not having to sign ourselves up for following anything that we don't have to. We've got minds of our own, so we can use them.
Well, I think sometimes what's lost is what's happening in our geography might not be the same thing that's happening where the rules are made.
I agree with that.
So just check into that to note the word follow.
yeah. shall follow. So leave in state statutes, but the question is whether we, health
Oh,
department,
health department.
consider health department. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we'll do the second reading of them next week, unless anybody has any other conversation to have,
Did you just say next week?
Next month.
or next month, I mean.
I'm not coming back.
I knew that.
So then we'll move on to our superintendent notes.
Okay, let's see. Just a quick, it's getting long here, so I just want to thank again the VEST Committee, the Vision Element Study Team, for all the work that they did over the last 7 months plus. There's a lot of work that went into that motion tonight. So we just finished swimming lessons in July, which we haven't had for a few years, post-COVID. Been a lot of work on budget. Our audit was July 24th through 28th, so the bulk of that falls on Lori. And things went smoothly when they were all here, and then we'll get results later on. Went to a couple legal summits the last few weeks, one put on by WASDA, and then the other members of the admin team went up to CISA 11 to 1 last, what day was that? It was Thursday last week. I lost track of when that was already. All the days are blurring together. Our maintenance staff, they've been going hard all summer in both buildings, getting the insides shined up like new again. Football started, that time of year, coming fast. Volleyball and cross-country dance cheer starts soon. Planning for the school year start up again. There's some cool trainings going on. We've got all of our paras, almost all of them are going up to CISA 11 for a training next week. That was very popular last year. They really appreciated it. Our special ed staff will be coming in early on August 23rd. We have a new staff in service August 22nd. We invite them in for an extra day. A bunch of just training and professional development stuff going on in August. Some CISA consultants coming here. I would say in the next week you're going to have parent and family communications coming out from both buildings. In those envelopes in front of you was the in-service schedules and plans. Just gave it to you as an FYI, so you've got that. And we're also talking about during the school year in-service planning already. So August 28th is Camp Junior High for the incoming 7th graders. And then also on the 28th, we've got our annual meeting at 7 p.m. You guys have a preference, Commons or library?
Library's probably got better acoustics, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Better
chairs.
seating, not that many
better
people.
seats.
For older people.
Except when you're eating your popcorn, you kind of make sure you don't spill it.
Yeah.
You're serving popcorn?
I've never had popcorn.
I was hinting to Chris.
I talk too much at that. I don't get to eat any popcorn. So, but anyway, in-service days are coming up, 29th, 30th, 31st, and our first day of school, the way the calendar fell this year, instead of September 1st, it's late as it can be on the 5th. It's the way it happens this year, and it'll cycle back around. So, busy time of year, just ramp up. I know that you don't think, but there's a lot of pressure and things going on right now with the principals and everybody. So it's an exciting time of year, ramping up for the teachers coming back and then the kids, of course. So looking forward to it. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chris Peterson. The next item of business is our contemplated closed session. Thanks for coming tonight. Pursuant to Wisconsin statute sections 19.85, paragraph 1E, and 19.85, paragraph 1C, the board will consider competitive bid proposals and discuss employee compensation. I will pull the board. Nettie?
Yes.
Yep.
Myself, Christie,
Yep.
and Matthew.
Yes.
We are all present, and we are in closed session.
Okay, so
Got it. I don't know where to
Yep.
push on that.
thank you.
All right, we are back in open session. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the creation of a 1.0 full-time equivalent position for a full-time substitute teacher and a tutor for ELL learners for the 23-24 school year with Genesis Lowerson to fill the position.
Do I hear a second? It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the motion as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I'll also entertain another motion.
I move to accept the consulting proposal from Brad Saran to work with the district on the strategic plan and goal scorecard development.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. To the motion as read, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. I will entertain one last motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. We are adjourned.